creepiest and most unexplainable paranormal experience you've ever had. This didn't happen to me, but to my family. My grandfather was a violent alcoholic who terrorized everyone around him for decades. He tried to kill my grandmother in front of their 6 children. One of his less horrible acts was abandoning her with all those kids, every single one under the age of 12, leaving her to raise them alone with nothing. Some of his children maintained minimal contact with him over the years, though most kept their distance. He lived about 30 miles from my grandmother and the 2 kids who'd stayed in the area. The relationship was strained at best. Obligation calls on holidays, maybe a brief visit once or twice a year. Nobody forgot what he'd done to their mother. When he was in his 80s, he was hospitalized with complications from decades of alcohol abuse. His body was finally giving out after years of punishment. He passed away alone in the middle of the night, surrounded by machines instead of family. Nobody had expected it to happen so suddenly. The next morning, his oldest daughter, my aunt, went to the morgue to identify the body and handle the paperwork. Before heading to the hospital, she stopped by my grandmother's house to break the news. She dreaded having to tell her mother, not knowing how she'd react after everything he'd put her through. When my aunt walked in, my grandmother was sitting at her kitchen table doing a jigsaw puzzle, humming softly to herself. Before my aunt could say anything, my grandmother looked up calmly and said, "Oh, it's a sad day. He died just past midnight, I imagine." My aunt froze. She assumed someone had already called, maybe one of her siblings, maybe the hospital. My grandmother had been showing signs of dementia lately, so the odd comment didn't seem too unusual at first. My aunt just nodded, gave her a hug, and headed to the morgue to handle the arrangements. At the morgue, when she saw the death certificate, my aunt's blood ran cold. The official time of death was listed as 12:10 a.m., just past midnight, exactly as my grandmother had said, but nobody had called her. My aunt had been the first to be notified by the hospital that morning. On her way home, my aunt stopped back at my grandmother's house. She had to know. "Mom," she asked carefully, "who called to tell you he died? And how did you know it was just past midnight?" My grandmother set down her puzzle piece and smiled, not with bitterness or pain, but with something that looked almost like peace. "Nobody called, honey. He came to see me himself at 12:30. We talked for a spell." My aunt felt the hair on her arm stand up. "What do you mean he came to see you?" "He appeared right here in my living room," my grandmother said, pointing to the spot near her recliner. "Clear as day. He wanted to apologize for all he'd done to me and you kids over the years. For the beatings, the drinking, leaving us with nothing, for trying to
Shut your
2 days into college and I'm 3 lectures behind. There's this guy, let's name him Colin. He says